In this video, we will do some exercise on quadrilaterals. First, we will see some statements whether they are true or false. First one is a parallelogram in which two adjacent angles are equal is a rectangle. A parallelogram in which two adjacent angles are equal. Suppose this is a parallelogram and the two adjacent angles, if these two are equal, then it is a rectangle. If these two are equal, the opposite angles are also equal. Therefore, four angles are equal. If four angles are equal in a parallelogram, each angle is equal to 90 degrees because the sum of the four angles in a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. So, if each angle is 90 degrees, it is a rectangle. So, this statement is correct. A parallelogram in which two adjacent angles are equal is a rectangle. This is a true statement. Or in a parallelogram, the adjacent angles are supplementary. So, the sum of these two angles is equal to 180 because they are supplementary. So, 180. And if they are equal, each angle is equal to 180 by 2, that is 90 degrees. Therefore, if in a parallelogram, if any angle is equal to 90 degrees, it is a rectangle. So, the statement is true. Next, a parallelogram in which two adjacent sides are equal is a square. A parallelogram in which two adjacent sides are equal, that is, if this side is equal to this side, then in a parallelogram the opposite sides are equal. Therefore, this is equal to this. As the adjacent sides are equal, the three are equal, and this is the opposite to this. Therefore, four sides are equal. But the angles are not equal to 90 degrees. Therefore, it is not a square, but it is a rhombus. So, in a parallelogram, if two adjacent sides are equal, it is a rhombus. It is not a square. Therefore, the second statement is false. Next one, third one. In a square, the diagonals bisect at right angles. In a square, this is the square. Four sides are equal. All the sides are equal. So, then the diagonals are equal and they bisect perpendicularly. When four sides of a quadrilateral are equal, the diagonals bisect perpendicularly. Even in rhombus, the four sides are equal, the diagonals bisect perpendicularly. Similarly, in a square also, the diagonals bisect perpendicularly. So, in a square, the diagonals bisect at right angles. At right angles means at 90 degrees perpendicularly. So, this statement is also true. Next, in a rectangle, the diagonals intersect at right angles. In a rectangle, all sides are not equal. Only opposite sides are equal. Therefore, the diagonals does not intersect at right angles. They bisect each other, but not at right angles or not perpendicularly. So, in a rectangle, the diagonals does not intersect perpendicularly or does not intersect at right angles. Therefore, this statement is false. That is, in a rectangle, the diagonals intersect at right angles means perpendicularly is a false statement. So, this statement is false. Next, in a trapezium or trapezoid, the sum of every pair of adjacent angles is 180 degrees. Trapezium means one set of opposite sides are parallel. So, this is a trapezium. Opposite sides are parallel. Only opposite sides are parallel. As these two are parallel, this line segment acts as a transversal and these two angles are supplementary. Similarly, as these two are parallel to each other, this acts as a transversal and these two angles are supplementary. But these two angles are not supplementary. The opposite angles are not equal. Therefore, only these two adjacent angles and this pair of adjacent angles are supplementary. This pair and this pair are not supplementary. So, every pair of adjacent angles is 180 degrees is a false statement. Only two pairs of adjacent angles are supplementary, or the sum of these two pairs of adjacent angles is 180 degrees. Supplementary means the sum of those two angles is 180 degrees. Therefore, this is a false statement. Only two pairs of adjacent angles are supplementary, or their sum is 180 degrees. The other two pairs of adjacent angles are not equal to 180 degrees. Their sum is not equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, the sum of every pair of adjacent angles, it is wrong. Every pair of adjacent angles is 180 degrees is wrong. Only two pairs of adjacent angles is 180 degrees. So this is a false statement. Next, some fill in the blanks questions. First one, in a rectangle ABCD, the diagonal AC is equal to 10 centimeter. Then the diagonal BD is equal to dash. In a rectangle, opposite sides are equal and parallel, and all the angles are equal to 90 degrees. Therefore, the diagonals are equal. In a rectangle, the diagonals are equal. Therefore, diagonal AC is equal to 10 centimeters. Then diagonal BD is also equal to 10 centimeters. The diagonals are equal in a rectangle and in a square, but they are not equal in a parallelogram or rhombus. Next one, in a rectangle ABCD, the diagonals intersect at O. If angle OAB is equal to 60 degrees, find angle AOB. In a rectangle ABCD, the diagonals intersect at O. So let this be the rectangle. Rectangle ABCD, the diagonals intersect at O. Then angle OAB. This angle is 60 degrees. Find angle AOB. This angle. So we have to find out this angle. Here diagonals bisect each other and both the diagonals are equal. Therefore, all these portions are equal. OA is equal to OB is equal to OC is equal to OD. Therefore, considering that triangle ABO, two sides are equal. These two parts, OA and OB, are equal. Therefore, this triangle, that is triangle AOB, is an isosceles triangle. Two sides are equal. Therefore, the angles which are opposite to equal sides are equal. That is, this angle is equal to this angle. Because these two sides are equal, the angles opposite to these two sides are these two. Therefore, this is also equal to 60 degrees. So, the third angle is, as sum of the three angles in a triangle is equal to 180 degrees, this angle is 180 minus 60 plus 60. That is 180 minus 60 plus 60, 120. So 180 minus 120 is equal to 60. Therefore, this angle is also equal to 60. That is, this is an equilateral triangle. All the three angles are equal. Therefore, all the three sides are also equal. So this angle is equal to 60 degrees. This is 60 degrees. Next one, in a rhombus, the diagonals intersect at O. Then angle AOB is equal to dash. In a rhombus, rhombus is a parallelogram in which all the four sides are equal. This is the rhombus ABCD. Intersect at O. Diagonals intersect at O. So O. Then angle AOB. Angle AOB. That is this angle. In a rhombus, diagonals bisect perpendicularly. The diagonals bisect perpendicularly. Therefore, this angle is 90 degrees. Angle AOB is equal to 90 degrees. So, in a rhombus, the diagonals bisect perpendicularly. Therefore, the angles at O is equal to 90 degrees. Next, fourth one. A diagonal in a parallelogram divides it into two dashed triangles. The diagonal in a parallelogram. So, let us consider a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram ABCD. A diagonal, let us take a diagonal AC. It divides the parallelogram into two triangles. What type of triangles are these? Because this side is opposite sides are equal. This side is equal. And this side is equal to this side. So, and this is common for both the triangles. Therefore, any diagonal of a parallelogram divides it into two congruent triangles. So, this is a congruent triangles. A diagonal of a parallelogram divides it into two congruent triangles. Even if we take the other diagonal, that is BD, this divides the parallelogram into two congruent triangles, that is triangle BCD and triangle ABD, because this is common and this side is equal to this side and this side is equal to this side. So, three sides of each the triangles are equal, that is according to SSS congruency. Three sides are equal. SSS congruency, the two triangles are congruent. So, any of a parallelogram divides the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. Next, fifth one, in a trapezium ABCD, AB is parallel to CD. If angle D is equal to x degrees, then angle A is equal to dash. In a trapezium or in a trapezoid, AB is parallel to CD. Here AB is parallel to CD. These two are parallel. Angle D is equal to x. This is x degrees. So angle A is equal to angle A dash. So as these two are parallel, AB and CD are parallel, this line segment AD acts as a transversal. It intersects the two parallel lines at A and D. Therefore, these two angles are supplementary. If two angles are supplementary, means their sum is 180 degrees. Therefore, this angle plus this angle is equal to 180, or this angle is equal to 180 minus x. So, angle D is equal to x, angle A is equal to 180 minus x degrees.